Welcome back here for another episode of Mages and Sages interview with the Old Mage, featuring Ed Greenwood. We do have a special guest of Jeff Grubb this week, and I think you're really going to enjoy. We're going to talk about Cormyr, a novel, origins of Dragonbait and Elias, and Spelljammer, Moonshae, and a lot more stuff. This is the first part of the interview, about 30 minutes. Don't forget to ring the bell and to like our page on Facebook, to like our YouTube channel here at Mages and Sages, and I really hope you enjoy the interview. All right, I want to welcome everybody back to the Mages and Sages podcast, interview with the Old Mage, with our special guest today of Jeff Grubb. Anybody knows who Jeff Grubb is? We all clap here in the studio. Jeff Grubb is a TSR employee from way back, so I won't get into a lot of stuff at TSR. I just want to kind of go through and do your bibliography a little bit. Okay. Dragonlance.
Yes.
Forgotten Realms. You did the Finderstone trilogy as your
With
bonds.
my wife.
Wyvern Spur, Song of the Sorials, the Harpers with Kate also, Masquerades and Finder's Bane.
Yes.
I believe it was. The Lost Gods, also with Kate.
That's Timora's Luck would be the
Timora's Luck, right. And then also the sequel to Finder's Bane, right? That's the sequel to Finder's Bane.
That's the sequel to Finder's Bane.
Okay, right. And then Magic the Gathering as well. You did, the Ice Age trilogy with them?
Yes. Brothers War first, then the Ice Age trilogy.
Right, Brothers War, and I did skip over that, sorry. Warcraft, I mean, this is getting, I'm getting tired of reading here.
Didn't you skip Al-Qadim as well?
I may have.
Spelljammer?
No, I haven't got I got Warcraft, then StarCraft, Guild Wars, and then, of course, the comics of Forgotten Realms comics, which I heard if you have those hidden somewhere, you have to get rid of them. I know somebody that would love to have them.
IDW did a reprint of a collection of the whole collection of them, so that might be easier to access at your local half-price book.
Really fantastic. I will definitely check it out when this whole COVID-19 thing is over.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just in the role-playing books, Manual of the Planes, D20 Modern Role-Playing Game with Bill Slavic.
How many manuals of the Planes?
Several, I think it was. I actually got the Manual of the Planes. I think it was probably 90 and 2000 or so. 2001, I did. I got a play test for that one. That was nice. Urban Arcana, Eye of the Wyvern, Karamikos, Kingdom of Adventure. Now you did also a D&D Diablo 2.
Yes.
Tempest Feud.
Yes. Which I turned into a novel, which
you
became
did?
Scourge, a Star Wars novel. Which was one of the last ones before the new movies came out and they retconned a lot of stuff. But I did a Star Wars novel, and I don't know if we mentioned this. Wrote Cormyr, a novel with Ed Greenwood.
As a matter of fact, one of our questions is going to be, I saved that one. We have a question from a fan about Cormyr novel.
Okay.
And it's actually one of my questions too. We'll start off with that one. That'll be our first one actually, because it's one of my favorite novels. I actually tore the spine up to pieces on that novel, on that book, and I just got it reordered in the hardback. It was so hard to find. And I picked up, it was about $35. I think it was on Amazon. I think
That's
it was
not bad.
30 or 35. And so I picked up the hardcover, and I'm afraid to open it. Because my other novel, it just literally was in pieces. It was such, I just loved it so much. And then just to kind of bring it around home here, Boot Hill, Marvel Superheroes, Spelljammer, Buck Rogers Adventure Game with Stephen Shend.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I told you earlier, I'm hoping Stephen will pop in and say hi. I can't guarantee he will, but hopefully he will. And then the Star Wars miniatures game.
Yes.
Hey, and I know I probably missed a whole bunch of stuff in there. And then currently you just finished Crucible.
Yes, Crucible from Relentless Studios, which is a part of Amazon. We were all working from home, and we got this out the door. Which is amazing.
That should tell you how y'all work together. That's just absolutely incredible to have a team that could do that.
We have a very good team, very talented people. So.
Well, think about it. To be able to do that in different states or even maybe in different countries, I don't know. To be able to do that and not be in the same office,
It's got a lot of great, a lot of pluses, a lot of minuses. It's, it's the fact I can't get up and go over and lean over an artist, for example.
Right.
But by the same token, I'm accessible to him. If he has a question, he can call me. So.
And I didn't introduce him. I'm so sorry, people. Ed Greenwood's here, of course, the Old Mage himself.
Yay!
Hi.
And we have Eric Boyd also joining us again.
Hello.
Yay!
He's kind of like a bad penny. He shows up every time we have one of these things. I'm not sure why. No, we enjoy having Eric here. Ever since his interview, we've had him come back. My cohort in crime, Curry Russell, will be here soon. And George Crashos, the man from Down Under, who's actually a drow. I'll let y'all know that. He will hopefully be able to stop in for a little bit. He's got some things he has to take care of on his Saturday. We'll hopefully be able to hear from him soon. Okay, so do you want to talk about Crucible a little bit before we get into any questions? Or
Well, I can give you the general heads up
Yeah,
on it.
please.
It's a third-person science fiction shooter with individual characters who have abilities, and we've created some wonderful characters. We've gotten some very nice response to people who are reacting to Earl, the space trucker, and Tosca, the maniac, mad scientist, chipmunk / hamster / kitten. Kill kitten is what people are calling her online.
I love it.
She is, and we are. It's a based on it's a science fiction shooter.
So, Jeff,
Mhm.
Yes.
how long, Jeff Grubb, how long?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
How long does it take, start to finish, to do a game like that, and how many people work on it?
We've been working on it for several years. We've made a number of advancements as we went along. We have changed direction a couple times. We said this isn't working. We've play tested it, responded to it. So it's taken us a while to basically get it out. I've been working on it. I've been working on it for 4 years.
Oh, there you go. All right, go ahead, Jeff. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, I was pretty much finished. It's taken me about four years. Is how long I've been at Amazon, and it's been a real experience. We have a lot of good people in a lot of different areas. They have a lot of talents, and I'm very proud of what we've done.
How long did it take before it got to like something close to the final form? Like
What time is it?
I meant more from like a story perspective. How long did it take you to settle in where you were going?
A lot of the story has been in place for some time, but our characters, as we have designed them and created them, continue to grow, both from a standpoint of, oh, here's a new mechanic, here's something we want this character to do, oh, wait, this character does this and has this relationship. So a lot of our stories come out of the world as we're creating it.
Very nice.
Which is very nice.
How many people did you say worked on it?
I didn't.
Yes, I noticed that.
Because I didn't say because I'm not sure, because we've had a lot of people who have worked on the game who have gone on, and a lot of people who've joined up, and I do not know what our current numbers are.
Like dozens or the hundreds or thousands or
It's a couple hundred.
a couple hundred people?
I mean, it depends on where you draw the line as well.
Is that mostly
Yeah.
story people, or are you talking about? I know the coding and stuff is done differently, but is this
Right.
more of people doing the
That's part of the
story?
team. That's part of the team, and we've been very good at basically building consensus and basically bringing in other people from other departments and other backgrounds to be able to basically get a handle on what to do to present the best possible game that we can. My current team consists of 3 of us on the narrative side, and we've just been both going crazy and having the time of our lives, and we're producing a good game, and it's gotten good marks. The story has gotten a lot, and the characters have gotten a lot of good response, which makes us very happy.
I look forward to playing it myself.
It's worth doing it. I mean, basically, it's a good game.
Online shooter game, or just one you have
It's
to
an
buy?
online shooter game. It is a third-person shooter, which means basically you don't just see the hands; you see the character itself from the back. It's science fiction themed. It's based on the planet Crucible, where there is a substance called essence, which basically only exists there, so people are fighting over it. And what you do is you represent a number of freelancers who have been hired to basically go down and rescue and take the essence off the planet, because the planet doesn't like you much.
Oh no!
So you have to worry about other hunters and the planet itself. So.
Okay, so I want to get right into a question here, which is very near and dear to my heart, and this is from Carl Jordan. And Ed, I think you've met Carl Jordan before. Sarah is his wife. And Eric, I think you saw both of them last year. They did the LARPing at the Candlekeep thing. Yeah.
Yep.
He wants to know, what was the collaborative writing process like for Cormier a novel?
Oh, okay.
That's for both you guys.
Cormier a novel was originally pitched as a concept of doing a Michener-style novel, which is one of those like Nebraska or Kansas or Montana, where basically the first chapter is the earth cools, and then basically then the settlers arrive, and then you interact with them. So it's one of these big sweeping novels. And what we did is we wrote it. It basically had alternated a present day situation where you basically a political situation within the history of Cormier. And interestingly enough, I wrote the history part of it, which starts off with a purple dragon, Purple Dragons of Cormier. Editor-in-chief of the TSR books got an art piece that had a purplish dragon. We put that on the cover. So he wanted to make sure I had the purple dragon in there. Hunting buffalo, laid out the wizards and the kings, and we would jump ahead a few hundred years, and we would basically tell stories for that. Whereas Ed was writing the political thriller in the modern day, and we would alternate off. And when we completed, I would joke at the time, because we have slightly different styles, because Ed tends to be long and involved and confusing, whereas I tend to be short and cinematic and confusing. And then we swapped, and he rewrote me, and I rewrote him, and then we put it all together and we shipped it out. And the editor who had been assigned to send us back the note, I remember, you remember this too. Yeah. The editor sent us back a note saying, "This is better than I had any right to expect."
Well, I have to tell you, I would have laid even money that Ed had written the history of that.
Yeah.
Because it was so in depth, and we know how Ed has in depth he is with the realms, that when I read it, because it's been a long time since I read it, but I thought the only knowledge of that could have come from Ed because it was so deep. But I found out recently it was you, and I was shocked.
Jeff plotted it,
Mm-hmm.
and because Jeff and Kate were doing the Wyvern Spur thing, I wanted them to have the freedom to bring Cormier to where their characters were, so it felt right to them. And every little corner of the realms, somebody at TSR adopted if we did it at all, and they should get a chance to make that part of the realms feel right to them.
Did you know where you were going with the novel at the end when you started, or not?
Yes. Okay. We knew when I write, I do like to know what the last line is. I do like to know what our goal is.
Right.
And you can see that in like the Ice Age books and the Brothers' War and everything. And it basically now sometimes, I do when I'm working with Kate in particular, but also in this case, I tend to work from a tight outline. So therefore, I know when I'm suddenly, going off track and things are basically getting, or a character who's so good they refuse to leave. I've had that happen in Lord Toad, a Dragonlance novel, and basically how it affects the storyline going forward. So I tend to. Some people write with the idea of I'm going to write about this and see where it goes, but I'm much more constrained because it also gives me a sense of pacing. As far as like I want to get this in at like 90,000 or 140,000 or whatever number that we agreed on, and basically it helps me pace the novel through, so I'm not spending too long. Now, one of the best scenes in Cormier was written by Ed, first draft. And you know the one I'm going to talk about, because it's this flying tour through a restaurant on the second floor. I believe it was Arabelle. Describing the diners and the food and the waiters and all the little politics that's going on all the way through, and ultimately to the greater arc of it has no effect. It's a great little scene though, and there's absolutely nothing I could do other than to say, okay, we're keeping that, because
nothing to do with the plot, right?
Well,
with the overarching plot.
But you have to have that there.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's let's do the history of the United States, and you never leave the Oval Office.
Yes.
You have to show how it affects people and how they feel.
They were talking about what was going on during all this, so basically it gave a good ground level view, or second floor, view of what was going on in the greater, thriller that we were talking about. I thought it was a really fine piece of writing. and it's OLED. So.
Thank you. No, that's. But it's interesting. Many years later, this was going to become a trilogy because Troy had written the second book, and then I was sent the outline for the third book because Troy plotted it. Unlike you in the tight outlines, I was sent this outline that said Chapter 55, more fighting. That's the chapter, and it was like, okay, you want 3,000 words of more fighting? I can do that, but I mean, it's just the different approach.
That's Thursday morning, so yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like it was a trip. And did y'all just send those back and forth to each other?
Yeah, I mean,
we overwrote each other.
Early days of early days of the internet, or did we use Federal Express?
We used Federal Express.
Okay, yeah.
So this is a long process.
Well, we were flying along. Yeah, and I remember Bill Larson saying that too, because he came across things and said, "Oh, this has to be it." And he just said, "No, actually, that's me."
Jeff. Yes. I confessed readily to, and I think that's one reason we both love the realms, but love Cormier as well. That it just felt right. And this is one of the things about a Michener novel is he likes his subjects, and you can see that we'll talk about Dark Times for one of these, South Pacific Islands or whatever, but he also has a great deal of affection for it, and I wanted to carry that over into Cormier as well.
Right. So. And I have to say, I just noticed, is that Lord Toad above your right shoulder on the wall?
Yes, the right shoulder. For those of you who are listening in, I've got.
He never leaves.
I'm broadcasting this from my home office, and I have the original art piece for Lord Toad on the back wall here by the entrance to my deck. Interesting story there is this was auctioned off at TSR for a charity type Christmas charity thing. They had an auction. Basically, the artists gave various artworks, and people said here's a gift certificate and that sort of thing. But two different groups thought, it'd be really good if we got this art piece and gave it to Jeff, because I wasn't in at the time. I was somewhere else during that period. So there were two different groups, both bidding against each other.
No. Trying to do the same thing.
Try to get me that art piece, and I really appreciate it. But I've got a number of other. I've got a Jeff Easley pencil sketch from Freelancers, and several comic book pages. The original Marvel Superheroes Advanced Set art Jeff Butler did on acetate, a Stephen Fabian piece for Manual of the Plains, and one from Forgotten Realms Adventures downstairs. And downstairs, I also have one of the four. They're not promotional. One of the four pieces of art that we generated to sell Dragonlance in by Larry Elmore.
Right.
He did 4 preliminary sketches, and the one I have is Karaman and Raceland, and we took that, we put that in a Dragon magazine, a story that Margaret Weiss wrote about the two brothers. But you can tell it's an early version, because the flying castles are literally a castle on a square plate. So but this is some of the prototype art that we put together when we were say, hey, we're going to do Dragonlance, and this is what it's going to entail. So
wow,
and there's another novel missed out of the bibliography, Freelancers.
I didn't write the Freelancers novel.
Oh, okay.
I just wrote it was a top secret SI setting for a futuristic cyberpunk / superhero universe. And Scott Benny did a sequel to it for a game product, and I don't remember who did the book. And
was it Mel Odom then? I don't know.
It might be. I'd have to go check it out. But I had completely forgotten there was a novel for it. I do have an unpublished novel for a TSR world, Jakandor.
Yeah.
Bone.
Yeah.
There was originally going to be a novel attached to it as well. And for those who weren't around 30 years ago, Jakandor, it was an interesting idea in the fact that two cultures on the same island fighting against each other. One is an intelligent necromancer elitist group, and the other is a savage, life-affirming barbarian group. the steel and bone of the title. And they did 3
Right.
products on it, which were well received. But but we were going to do a novel as well, and I have the novelization. It is my trunk book, and basically someday it may see the light of day, or it may just stay where it is. So I've got it somewhere.
That leads me to a follow-up question.
Okay,
This
go
is
for the
loaded,
follow-up.
loaded
Back to-
question because you just named like 40 different genres.
I know.
Do you have favorites or none at all? Favorite genres?
To read or to work in.
Well, I'll ask for both.
I work in a lot of different genres. I like the variety. David Zeb Cook once said that designers have a low boredom threshold, and so that's one reason we keep shifting gears all the time. Is we're working on a new project and it's a new world and everything's great, and 2 years later we're working on something else. And here's a whole bunch of material. I think a lot of what I've done has been in the fantasy genre. I like the fantasy genre. I don't read as much of the traditional, what we would call traditional fantasy. One of the pieces that I have that I'm reading, I like mysteries. I've been reading a lot of Nero Wolfe.
Nice.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But Nero Wolfe is strange in that half of that is spending time in that household in the brownstone.
Yes, it is. Because I've read some of his other stuff that is not Archie Goodwin and Nero Wolfe. This is Rex Stout, who is the author, other Rex Stout, and they're okay. But they don't have that same sort of verve and feeling of that first-person narration of wise guy Archie Goodwin, who's got this crazy boss who is obese, and he doesn't like to leave the house, and he doesn't like to shake hands, and he doesn't like to have a woman present, and he basically is a gourmand. And you know that over the course of every book, he's going to break some cardinal rule. He's going to come down before he is done with his orchids, or he's going to shake hands with a woman, or something like that, because that's part of the pattern for it. And I really like the original Nero Wolfe material. Right now, in the Plague, I have actually on my website, grubstreet.blogspot.com, I am reviewing books, and I'm catching up on a lot of my reading because that's what I'm doing in my in my downtime when I'm away from my work computer. Right. And so I've been catching up on a lot of books that I've received, that I've worked on, that I've been meaning to finish. And it's been very interesting to see. Right now, I am finishing up a collection of tales of Songs of the Dying Earth, which was about 15 years ago, after Jack Vance's passing, that basically George Martin, R.R. Martin, got a whole bunch of writers, Neil Gaiman, Dan Simmons, Howard Waldrop, all to write Dying Earth stories. It's been a huge, thick book, and I've been reading it and then stopped and then started reading it again, so it's been in my pile of abandoned books for years now. And now I'm finally getting finished with it. So
very nice.
So a review will show up there too.
Oh, that's terrific. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's get to some other questions here.
Sure.
Now, some of these, let's see here. Well, this is just more of somebody just on their want list. I think Mike Ott asked, are there any thoughts on Spelljammer for 5th edition that you've heard?
I think Mike Merles was teasing people because he would show a picture of a GIF, or or basically show a Spelljammer and just freak everybody out. They love the idea. I don't know. TSR/WotC/Hasbro is right down the hill from where I am, but I have no idea what their plans are. They put Dragon Bait into a adventure. And I found out after the fact, and that's cool because they own them. It's nice to see the continuity. It's nice to see them picking up characters that we've loved back in the past and using them again. But I'm as much clueless as everybody else. Ed used to, I used to try to get Ed the more recent material from TSR. But often it would happen that he was working in the library, and someone would come in for an autograph. Basically, and oh yes, I'll be glad to sign this. Mind if I read it first to see what they say? It's true.
Yeah.
So no, I have no idea if Spelljammer is on their list. They have been doing really interesting stuff with 5th edition. But I have been approaching it primarily as a fan. And occasionally I see something and go, oh, that was nice, or oh, I worked on that. Or, okay, where are they taking this? So
that is incredible. I love that. Now, this kind of brings me to my next question here from Dwayne Nutley. He wants to know, how did the concept for Alias and Dragon Bait come about?
idea of doing a book in the first place, first book of the Forgotten Realms, which was Dark Walker on Moonchase, was adopted because Doug Niles was working on what was going to be a British version of Dragonlance with the TSR UK group, which then got shredded, and so he had a half-written book. And Ed and I were working on what became the Gray Box.
Right.
And he basically had a half-written book. We said, yeah, we'll pick it up. And we redrew the Moonshales, which were much more like an archipelago. They were much more like Earthsea than this huge mega Great Britain type of thing that was hanging off the edge of our continent. And so he did the first book. Bob Salvatore, who shared an agent with our head of our book department, Mary, basically put a pitch in for the second novel. And he sent it in, and I read the first few chapters, and I ran to Doug of the Hall. I said, this is real interesting. This is real good. But it's a little more, bloodthirsty than you've done before. And Doug just looked at me shocked and said, I didn't submit a second book yet. And that's when I found out about Bob Salvatore. Ed did the third one with Spellfire, which I assume you've talked about all before. And the fourth one, basically, I worked on it, and I basically got the nod for it because I knew where bodies were buried. And I started working out a plot for Azure Bonds with, basically creating the idea of the characters, the party, the adventure, the again, mystery novel type thing. Basically, you wake up, you're in a different town, and you've got tattoos on you. And you have no idea where you were or what you were doing or what happened. So that you've got that lost memory piece, which is really kind of cool.
So like Jason Bourne for a fantasy world?
Many, many years before. I won't say it's totally original. But and you also discover, among other things, the tattoos are cursed and cause you to want to kill the king of Cormyr. And you discover that by accident. And so the story peeled off, and we definitely had a dragon in it, which was Mr. Notparadnicles, and the characters started gravitating. And while working on it, I was driving with my wife to Milwaukee, a direct sale comic book shop. We would go buy comic every 2 weeks. We'd go up to Milwaukee, buy comics, go to a restaurant, table for two, good light source, and read comics and have dinner. And by the time I got to Milwaukee, I had a co-writer. And one of the characters changed gender, which happens a lot during the course of my novels. As a character that we originally envision as being male becomes female, or vice versa. It does create an interesting change in dynamic. So Olive was originally Oliver. This was the process, and as we worked our way through it, Kate and I would go to restaurants that we had never been to before. So if we got into a big fight about the book, we would just never go back there. So, we're at restaurants and talking about, evil gods and, vegetable creatures and all sorts of, and the wait staff is just sort of leaning over, wondering, what the hell are we doing? And parties.
Do I need to call security?
Have
or
parties,
priest?
and we warned our friends that plot would break out at any moment. That we would be sitting there and we'd be talking, and then Kate would turn to me and say, in chapter 5, and everybody would move away. Now, Alias is very much me.
And I'm glad you said Alias.
Alias, not Elias.
Thank you, because when I read that, and at first I didn't know how to pronounce her name, and then when I started reading the story, it's like, wait, she doesn't know who she is, so she's an alias.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, and I hear people say, no, it's Elias. I go, no, you didn't read the book.
Most of the characters I name have names that have bearing back onto who they are. Dragonbait is named by Alias, you're Dragonbait, and that just fits for him. So basically, often my characters will have a personality that, Lord Toad, that basically is reflected in their name. So that's a good indicator from... if you're reading along and you hit names like that, that you can see my hand in there. Now, if it looks like they put their nose on the keyboard and rolled their head back and forth, that's one of Ed's.
I was just going to say, and it's probably a dragon too, right?
It's that mist character, right?
Mr. Notparadnicles is mine.
Oh,
yes,
is it really?
and it follows a naming convention. It goes back, I guess I discovered, not intentionally, there was a Disney film with the Dragon Slayer.
Yes,
that had that rhythm. But what I was thinking when I did was Romana from Doctor who had Romana Devella La Pundar or something. It was that sort of long name that basically shortens down to something. So that was Mr. Narparadnicles, and it has a rhythm because da 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 da. So you often find that in my naming conventions as well. But anyway, I'm Alias, short-tempered. It's true. I think it's a fair description of where I am, action-oriented. But Alias had a lot dealing with me, in part because I had a period of lost time myself when I first got out of college, in which I had a seizure. It was mild, but what happened during that period, I had no idea. And so basically there was a piece of me into that. Olive, interestingly enough, is very much Kate. And people say, oh, Alias red hair obviously has to be Kate. Nope. Alias personality comes out of me, and a lot of who Olive is comes out of Kate. And people think that, well, obviously Jeff did this because she's a nasty, unpleasant character. Nope, Kate put a lot into that. So she was wonderful for that.
So let me ask a follow-up to that then. So then, did you guys reverse sort of who was driving versus assisting, or did it change the dynamic when you went to the Wyvern Spur, since it was her character was the main character?
Not really. What happened in our working arrangement for what we did is I would basically be the first pass guy. We would argue the plot. This is another good reason to work with a tight plot. Is basically we're working out the plot and we're negotiating it, and we're basically figuring out how this is going to happen. I would sit down and I would blitz through, as I'm a relatively faster writer. And then she would revise, and we would reshape, and we would redo scenes as we went along. So a lot of it, particularly after it came back from the editor for the first draft, she was very hands-on for that part of it as well. So both of us created the plot. I would do an initial pass. She would basically come up and translate it into English, and then it would go to the editor and would come back. And it really worked out really nicely. And I've worked, alongside people and on my own, and they both have advantages and disadvantages. So it's just like I really, I love what I did with the Magic the Gathering novels, but those were mostly a solo work.
Right. Now, have you done anything else with Kate outside of the Forgotten Realms?
No, primarily the stuff we did were the 6 books that we do with this are tied in with Finder as well. And as time goes by, we have more that we basically she had a lot more as far as where the characters wanted to go.
I have more.
Oh.
I have so many questions here. It's just
okay.
And I have one more. I have one more follow up on that.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Eric. And as we leave our characters on that cliffhanger from Eric Boyd, we will see you next time here with Mages and Sages interview with the Old Mage with part 2 of the interview with Jeff Grubb. And as before, please don't forget to like our fan page for Ed Greenwood on Facebook, like the YouTube channel here, and to ring the bell so you get updated on new videos that come out. Okay? Have a great day, and keep playing in the realms.
Hurry, hurry, step right up.
Come, marvel at tales of weird history that prove fiction has nothing on reality.
Thrill at stories of strange science, from the utterly mind-bending to the horribly misguided.
Chill from true tales of the unexplained, paranormal, and supernatural.
All this plus comedy, romance, and variety.
It's colossal!
It's stupendous!
It's your new favorite podcast, a delicious, mysterious tincture called Odd Tonic.
Join us in the parlor each week, dear guest, for a cup of tea and a bizarre, enthralling tale to delight the mind and stir the senses.
Odd Tonic, an exquisite elixir for those who love the odd?
Or a tantalizing treat for those who are the odd.
Yes.